and talk about some other topics that have occurred over the weekend. And I'd like to take you to this first report from the Zero Hedge. They are reporting that apparently DARPA is coming out with a biochip to save us from COVID, but it can also change the human DNA. The report goes on to read that while half of the American voting public is no doubt waiting in earnest for the announcement of a release of the COVID vaccine, and as other states and governments and the world over attempt to require proof of negative tests before travel, a new tool in the shed of government surveillance and control is beginning to reveal itself. Now, some governments aren't having to market the chip as a method to track, trace, and control populations. Instead, they are marketing the chip as a way to track and detect COVID and other coronaviruses. Clearly, this is much easier to sell to the public. Raul Dago details the creation and coming rollout of the new biochip in his article, A DARPA-Funded Implantable Microchip to Detect COVID-19 Could Hit Markets by 2021. The revolutionary breakthrough came to a Canadian scientist named Derek Rossi in 2010 purely by accident. The now retired Harvard professor claimed in an interview with the National Post that he found a way to reprogram the molecules that carry the genetic instructions for cell development in the human body, not to mention all biological life forms. It goes on further to report that it is clear that this project has support in the halls of the corporate world and the American government. The private company created to market this technology allows for biological processes to be controlled remotely and opens the door to the potential manipulation of our biological responses and ultimately our entire existence. Now, as early as 2006, DARPA was already researching how to identify viral upper respiratory pathogens through its Predicting Health and Disease program, which led to the creation of the agency's Biological Technologies Office. In 2014, DARPA's BTO launched its In Vivo Nanoplatforms program, which researches implantable nanotechnologies, leading to the development of the hydrogel. A hydrogel is a nanotechnology whose inventor early on boasted that if it pans out with approval from the FDA, then consumers could get the sensors implanted in their core to measure their levels of glucose and oxygen. This contact-less material requires a special injector to be introduced under the skin, where it can transmit light-based digital signals through a wireless network like 5G. Once firmly implanted inside the body, human cells are at the mercy of the mRNA program, delivered via this substrate, unleashing a nightmare of possibilities. It is perhaps the first true steps towards a full-on transhumanism. Now, finally, it reports that activists and concerned citizens need to stop talking about the coming microchip and how they will refuse to be chipped when that time comes. But the writer states, the time is now. Soon people all over the world are going to have a very difficult decision to make. Take a microchip or face the consequences. And judging by the amount of people walking around in mass, I'd say the odds are not in the favor of free humanity. Most people will line up for it willingly. So a very interesting article. And it kind of reminds me of the Nephilim in